Hey friends, welcome to the School of Hard Knocks with Darcie, a place where we become unstuck from trauma and grounded in our healing. I'm your host, Darcie, and I'm a proud multi-graduate of the School of Hard Knocks. Life has a way of teaching us lessons we never asked for, but here we take those lessons and turn them into healing, strength, and self-leadership. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
Just a quick reminder. This podcast shares personal stories and lived experiences. It's not therapy. It's not counseling or legal advice. If you need professional help, please reach out to a licensed provider. Hello, School of Hard Knocks. I am so excited to be here with you today. Class is back in session. We are here with another interview, and I'm excited to introduce you to Marlowe. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Marlowe, but welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
We are so excited to have you here. So let me introduce you. Marlowe is a trauma specialist and neuropsychologist-informed therapist who challenges everything you know about healing, awakening, and doing the work. I love that so much. Blending neuroscience with raw lived experience, she doesn't just talk about transformation. She's survived it, dismantled it, and rebuilt herself from the inside out. Marlowe brings an unfiltered, embodied perspective on resilience, identity, and the hidden architecture of the human psyche. This is so incredible, Marlowe. I cannot wait to hear everything that brought you to this point that you are at today.
All right. Well, let her rip. Ask me all the questions that you would like. Yeah.
So, what is the biggest thing that has led you up to where you are today? What is the biggest change that happened in your life?
It's interesting, Darcie, because some people go through life, everybody goes through life with little hiccups, right?
Mhm.
That's normal, and that's to be expected. And then there are some people who experience life, like experience the human experience magnified. So it's initially I fell in love with neuroscience in my teenage years. So I knew I was going to go into medicine. I knew I was going to go into neuroscience. And then I wound up having two young boys with autism, and they are now 24 and 22 years old. And that was difficult.
Yeah.
In so many ways. It was isolating as a parent. All the kids in school would get birthday invitations, and my kids would never get invitations. They didn't have anybody to go to the playground with. Nobody came over for play dates. Birthday parties were just us. It was really sad, and that was quite traumatic. But it wasn't until recently that the most impacting situation occurred in my life, and that was that I was with somebody. I had a partner, not for a very long period of time, but long enough that we were thinking about a future together, and the relationship just fell apart, as many relationships do for many reasons, and he couldn't manage that, and he wound up taking his life in my home. Mm-hmm. And I found him, and that catapulted me into an entirely different level of understanding the mind and the brain and how we perceive life, because everybody perceives life, everybody perceives even eating an apple in a different way. So that was profound. That was profound, Darcie.
I mean, I can't even imagine. There's, like you said, if to go back, a lot of people experience different things in life, and some of them can feel like a hiccup, right? And a lot of things that people go through can feel really traumatic, but a lot of it is actually really traumatic. So, when I'm sharing my story, which I've only been doing for 6 months, I held a lot of that inside because of the fear of hurting my parents, hurting my siblings when they uncovered things that maybe they didn't truly understand the magnitude of. But there were traumatic bouts throughout my entire life too. But then you have the big one. It's like there's always this big one, and you think back to all of the other things, and you're like, oh man, I thought some of those were actually really the big one, you know?
Right.
Like, I
Yeah.
actually have a nephew who is autistic,
Okay.
and he is wonderful. He is my favorite person in this whole entire world. He just turned 23. But when that
Okay.
first came, when that first was his diagnoses, I remember my sister feeling the same way you had said, very just secluded and didn't know who she could talk to about it and how she was going to help my nephew through school years. So let's talk about that. I mean, you have two
Oh,
children. What are their
yeah.
age differences and how were you able to successfully bring them through those periods in their life?
Okay. Well, the boys are now 24 and 22 years old. So they're 21 months apart. And my youngest, sorry, well, I have three children, but my second son was diagnosed first. And he was actually the youngest child in North America to be diagnosed.
Wow.
Yeah. So at that point, they weren't diagnosing children until just before the age of 3 was the earliest. But
Mhm.
because I was already studying neuroscience, I had a lot of colleagues. I had a lot of extra support in terms of diagnoses and assessments. So it was when he was 10 months old, I knew for sure that we were dealing with something developmental. In hindsight, there were many signs, even as
Mm,
early as just the first few months. But it
mm.
but it was the day after he turned 2 that he was diagnosed, and that was back in 2005. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
very.
about the same time because my nephew just turned 23 in
Mhm.
March here. So I remember when my sister started to really feel like something doesn't feel right. He's very smart and he's obtaining a lot of information. I mean, my nephew could turn on a computer and get to where he needed to be by the time he was 2 years old. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm struggling to try to figure some of this
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
out.
yeah.
But
Mhm.
the vocally, that's when it started to appear to her. He wasn't saying words. He wasn't wanting to repeat. He wasn't wanting to communicate.
He
That
wasn't, he
was,
wasn't, he, and he probably, well, I know he was, because this is just the standard with autism. Your nephew it's called receptive and expressive language. So he's receiving
mm,
words, but he doesn't know what to do about it. So
correct.
even when they called his name, he wouldn't respond. Not that he didn't hear it, it's just that he didn't know how to respond to his name.
Right.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating.
It really
Yeah.
is. I mean, he could take like a little toy sword and
Yeah.
literally act out the whole scene of Star Wars. Like
Right.
I'll never forget. Like I thought, how is he remembering all of these things? And he's just doing it so
Hmm.
perfectly. But we
Yeah.
couldn't get that communication. And she brought somebody in, and he was diagnosed with autism. I would say right around the age of 3.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was standard. So, but I
Yeah.
pushed for it, and I was able to push for it because I came to that appointment with the developmental delay specialist,
Mhm.
and I had a stack of assessments, and most people don't have the access to getting those assessments done until after the diagnosis. So that's the only reason why he was able to be diagnosed so early.
Yeah, that's so great. So taking them through school,
Oh,
how was school? Because I know for my nephew it was the same thing, really hard making friends, not getting invited to things, nobody coming to things that he invited them to. He actually ended up having to take like a specialty class, which almost made him feel like he was more segregated from his peers, right? But it was just hard to figure out the right way to help him through what it was he was going through. And teachers aren't always really helpful
no, they're
either.
not. No,
They're
and
not.
it's not their fault either, Darcie. It's not their fault. They are taught how to educate the standard demographic.
Yes.
They are not taught to be special education teachers. Teachers get placed into special education and they just try to figure it out. They
Mm.
don't know. They don't know how to, and it's a lot of work, to be honest. If in a perfect world, a special education teacher would be able to customize curriculum and how to educate each and every single child. And in a group, like those groups, those classrooms, you will have a multitude of disabilities who
Yeah.
require a multiple, variations of education. So it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible. But I do know that my middle child, even with the language difficulty, he was able to express to me that he didn't want to be in that class.
Mm.
Did not want to be in that classroom. He felt different than the other kids in special education.
Mm-hmm.
And he became very frustrated and became he quite aggressive. So
Yeah.
it was very, very difficult. The socially difficult,
Mm.
educationally difficult. In every single facet, it was difficult. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, and I
Well,
understand. Yeah.
yeah, and
Go ahead.
I do like to brag on my nephew because he has done so well, with life and figuring
Good.
things out. And he is actually a United States Post Office carrier.
Oh,
So he drives his own little postal truck, and his heart is insanely beautiful. He actually went viral on TikTok, and he's not really a social media person.
no,
But one
really.
of his recipients of mail, my nephew, was bringing her dog's ashes. And my nephew sat down on the porch with her with his arm around her, consoling her with
Oh,
her. And it went viral because she posted the ring cam of the thing. He was on
oh,
like Entertainment Tonight on ET. They interviewed
ah,
him. And I was like, that's my guy. Because his heart is just so beautiful.
oh.
I wish there was more people in the world that had that heart.
Now, does just offside here, maybe a little offside. Does he have an Instagram or does he have social media?
He
Is he
does.
active on it? Yes. Oh, good.
Not really. He's more of a, he's very tech savvy. It has nothing to do with being tech savvy. I mean,
Yeah.
he could build a website. That's actually what my brother-in-law does. He's an IT guy and he builds
Okay.
websites. So my nephew is very much into it. He just doesn't like the cattiness of it. He doesn't like the
Oh, I
drama
get it.
of it. He doesn't like the negativity of it. He chooses to just be a very free-spirited. If I want to know something, I'll look for it, but I don't want to be involved in all this stuff.
That's the same. That's the same. That's the same with my boys. And to be fair, do we really want them on social media platforms expressing themselves?
Heck, I don't even want to be on social media platforms, but I run businesses where I have to be.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So that's the
Yeah,
truth.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, well, okay, wonderful. So let's talk about what your big one was. Your big change in your life. Take me through that period of your time, how you're
Hmm.
doing now with it, how you've been able to process through.
Well, first of all, Darcie, I want to know how graphic. Do you want me to dial it back? I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable because this is
Mhm.
a very triggering topic,
Yes.
and I don't know. So can you just give me sort of the lay of the land here with
Well,
my.
I will. School of Hard Knocks. We're gonna tell Marlo a little bit. Marlo and I are new acquaintances to each other, so she doesn't know a whole bunch about my life. My dad was a survivor of a workplace shooting.
Mm,
He was shot by an ex-employee who held a grudge for 7 years. The ex-employee came back, killed the front end manager, shot another woman who was dropping off one of my dad's employees, and then shot my dad twice. The way that my dad hit the ground unfortunately resulted in a traumatic brain injury. He did just about 2 years in brain rehab and came home, and my husband and I took care of him for 3 years and 8 months. full 24-hour care before I unfortunately did find him deceased in his bed 5.5 months ago. So this is something we are very open about these things because I get goosebumps even thinking about it. It's only been 5.5 months and I'm trying to process through this big loss that I had suffered. But we are so open about these things here because there are unfortunately a lot of people that are going to experience these things. And I have found the more open I am about the pain points of it and how I was able to process through this truly has helped people. So here we are open. As comfortable as you are, I never want you to put yourself somewhere where you're not comfortable, of course. So whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay. All right. So, Darcie, it's something, talking about trauma, regardless of what kind of trauma human beings are witness to, including death. These are topics that are so swept under the rug. Nobody feels comfortable discussing these hard truths, these truths that everybody in life at some point, everybody will go through.
Absolutely.
So it's imperative that we talk about the stuff that's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it when I'm on social media and there's a certain word that has been retracted or blurred out. Yes, I understand in terms of audience content, but if you preface that before posting, like this is not for children, this is not for under 18, this could be a triggering topic, whether that's eating disorder, whether that's depression, suicide, whether that's major depressive disorder. Maybe it's
The loss of
schizophrenia.
a baby. I mean,
Loss of a baby.
yes.
So we need to just be real. And
Mhm.
I think that the censoring across the board is starting to be shook a bit. And I'm very, very happy about it. We need to have these discussions. We need to talk about death because every single one of us are going to face it, whether
That's right.
we're witnessing it or it's going to happen to us. So I
Mhm.
don't understand and I don't appreciate that we have to keep it very secret, very quiet. So, right. So the suicide, that was very impactful. And, and I've lost my mother, I've lost my father. So it's not as though I have not experienced loss. And those are tremendous losses. And within losing somebody, there's so much introspection that goes on. Yeah, we understand that there's a grieving process, and everybody goes through the grieving process. We go through it in different ways. So you might go through shock or denial for longer periods of time, or you might zip through the first three and then be stagnant on the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean stagnant, like it could be a year, it could be more. But some people can go through it very quickly. So the way we process grief and trauma will vary, but the stages are all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are a lot of other things that can get stuck in there, right? Infiltrate, like guilt, right? Guilt is a big one. Guilt of not spending enough time with somebody, guilt for having years of built up angst or anger towards somebody, guilt for feeling as though you could have done something. So in my personal experience with the boys, as well as with this situation, I harbored a tremendous amount of guilt. With the boys' diagnoses, I thought, oh my goodness, like, what did I not do? What did I do wrong in pregnancy? I'm thinking, like, dissecting it, like, was I sick? Did I take Gravol when I shouldn't have? Like, what did I do wrong? Was it like asbestos in the home? Like, was it environment? Like, what did I do wrong? And the same with the suicide. What did I do wrong? What could I have done to help this human being not develop autism, not kill themselves? What could I have done better? And this situation that happened last year with the suicide, I remember, because I've been working in this capacity for a long, long time, I have the head knowledge, but I didn't have the heart knowledge. But you know what? I was able to get through it very quickly and in a very healthy way because of my background. So immediately I told myself, Marlowe, you may have been the catalyst for this horrific tragedy, but you are not the cause.
Mm.
Okay. So for this particular trauma, I had to really chew on that. I was the catalyst. I know I was. It said it in the note. I know I was the catalyst, but I was not the cause. So with that, I was able to remove myself emotionally from the tragedy and process it in a very logical, very structured manner. But it also threw me into a whole, what happens after death? Where do we go? What goes on? Like, there are things, when you are open, there are things that it's not psychosomatic. Psychosomatic means it's all in your head. And sometimes things are, right? But, man alive, all of a sudden there was this unraveling of history of my family and all these sort of parallels that just came forth, and it just resonated with me so much. It was the most spectacular and unexpected gift for me in terms of how I understand my world, how I understand humanity, how I understand the mind, the body, the spirit, the soul, however you want to describe it. It was the most profound, across the board moment of my life. I'm grateful that I was gifted that opportunity. I was gifted that moment. I really wish it had been different, but here we are.
Right. I really like how you said too that you moved through it healthy. I mean, so many when we're going through grief of any kind, but a traumatic situation that puts you in grief, people don't do it always so healthy, like they
Oh
stuff
no.
it down, they use drugs, they use alcohol, they
Oh, but
don't talk about it.
Girl, let me tell you though, there were unhealthy moments. Like
Oh, yeah.
it's not like I went through it all like picture like Mary Poppins perfect. Absolutely
Hmm.
not. There were moments where, gosh, like there was this empty bottle of Jack Daniels beside the body with just a tiny bit amount left. And it was just like, it was a shotgun. So when the shotgun, it's not like a pistol. It wasn't clean. It was everywhere.
Right.
And I remember there were unhealthy things that I did, and that unhealthy processes. Like I grabbed the bottle of Jack and I, took that last little swig and I took that bottle and I threw it across the room. And after the the police came and the paramedics and they took the body away and they leave the carnage. So, and I don't have any family alive to help me. My kids went away for the night. I don't have family. They don't even have a father really, who they had to find their own place to stay. And I was left with this carnage. And I have to tell you, I mean, like that, it's not healthy. It's shock. And what we do when we are in a position of shock, and even that's when an unexpected death period, it could be a heart attack, it can be God forbid, like it could be a car accident. But
Hmm.
that initial time, that shock period, we do wild things
Yeah.
in a place of shock.
Hmm. Yeah.
Aside from crying, aside from yelling. I mean, yeah, I was not I knew I was processing it and managing it the way my personality does. And, you know, thankfully I got a hold of those reins, and I, you know, dialed it back. And
Yeah.
yeah. And I said, girl, this is not, you need to process this in a
Mm.
healthy way, because what you're doing right now is not good. And yes, people do start drinking. I remember I, I went and bought a pack of cigarettes, and I don't smoke. Like yeah, like I don't smoke, and I'm sitting there and I'm smoking and coughing, and like I just was grabbing at straws. I had no one to talk to. I didn't even want to talk to my colleagues. I couldn't. It was so private at that time. I was
Yeah.
just, oh, where are you? Where did you go? But
Mm.
it's part of life. It's part of life. So, let's talk about it, And the thing too is that with grief, with therapy, there are many therapists who practice a variety of ways, right? So they do, family counseling and grief counseling, but really grief counseling, unfortunately, we need to do our research and figure out, well, this counselor, this therapist, and the psychologist that I'm going to see, the social worker, do they have experience personally with trauma? Because and now everybody experiences some degree of trauma, and the trauma that I experienced with the boy's diagnoses is very different than the trauma that I experienced recently with this
Right.
situation. So we just need to do our due diligence, do the work and look and find a therapist that you can really identify with. It's not a one size fits all. You need to make sure that therapist's um, experience with trauma sort of jives with yours. So
Mm-hmm.
take your time, because there's nothing worse than being in a therapist's office who doesn't relate to you, and you can't relate to them, and then you spend so much money and so much time. It's exhausting, and then you have to unpack that again with a new therapist. So
Right.
it's really, really important that
Yeah,
you
you
that
kind of want to heal through it one time.
oh yeah,
And there's no time limit. This is just what I've been
yeah,
in my own mind here with this, because I grieved the loss of my dad once already when he was shot, because the traumatic brain injury made him very different than who I knew for 39 years of my life. So then I obviously had to grieve the loss of him actual, which is where I'm currently at. We're about to hit the 6 month mark only. So this is very fresh to me. And I have had different levels of very traumatic things that have happened in my life. But this is it for me. This is the biggest, worst, most horrific thing I've ever experienced in my life. I mean, my dad was shot 6.5 years ago. And I wasn't even able to completely process through that, because how I got thrown into being his guardian, making the decision is we were traching him and pegging him and where he was going. And well, your brain couldn't even process that. And then
and
he's,
therapies and
yes, yes.
and then struggling with, oh well, there's hope with recovery from brain injury, whether it's mild, moderate, or severe brain injury. We always hear about these amazing success stories, and we think, yes, sign me up for that. We're going to do all the things. We're going to feed him nutritiously. We're going to get him into these programs. We're going to push through, because we're going to be that family that comes out on the other end exactly the way we want it to be, because we
Mm-hmm.
know things like the brain is malleable. Malleable. We have there's neuroplasticity. So I would also, if I were in your position, I would also be grabbing onto that too. I would have, and then hope is lost, and then you're angry and you're
Well,
sad.
the cool thing is my dad was a 24-hour care person. So we did shower, feed, dress, all of the things. He ended up with aphasia on top of it. So
Mm-hmm.
communication wasn't, all there. But we were one of those families that were successful. I mean, my husband and I did not give up. The night before my dad died, we were still doing everything status quo. We did all the OT, all the PT, all the speech. He was at AC/DC concerts. He was at balloon glows. He was at
Oh,
fireworks.
good.
We broke a freaking wheelchair because we were taking him on grounds that we shouldn't have been. I gave my
Love it.
dad life in a way that nobody else would have been able to do. And it was hard and it was grueling, but it was beautiful. And God had his hand in every single moment of it. I actually just came across a video today, and my dad used to do this thing where he kind of circle my hand, and I'm helping him eat. And sometimes he could speak with automation. And I said, Dad, are you happy? And he said, yeah. And I said, are you having a good day? And he said, yeah. And I said, I love you. And he said, yeah. And I said, hey, I love you. And he said, I love you. And it's things like that that I just hold on to with every fiber of my being because I put everything I had into giving him life for 1,331 days inside of our home and being there for him the 2 years previous to him coming home, traveling 4 hours from home, living in Chicago. I lived in the Ronald McDonald House so I could be close to him in Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, that time and effort that got put into that, I regret zero things. And I'm so blessed for the 6+ years that God gave us with him. The grief of it is horrible. It just truly is. It just
Yeah.
truly. I mean, 2 hours before I came here with you, I came across that video because it popped up in my thing, in my memories, and I had to have a cry about it because I show myself grace now. That is what
You
we do
do.
when we are
Yeah.
healing health, like,
Mhm. See,
So,
it's like we wind up realize, well, when you really truly realize how fragile
mm,
life is, we tend to parent ourselves
mm-hmm.
very kindly.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's what you've been doing. And the time that you spent with him during that process are moments and times that you would never have had
Mm-hmm.
otherwise. And now
Mm-hmm.
that he's on the other side of the veil, I mean, it's your connection with him is priceless. His
Mm-hmm.
connection with you, priceless.
Mm-hmm.
And he carried that through the end of his life. And
Yeah.
that is precious. That is the most valuable thing ever.
Yeah. We had a
I
really, really beautiful story out of something that was really ugly. The grief part of it,
Yep.
I'm not even 6 months in, and so many people ask, well, how are you doing as well as you're doing? First of all, I'm treating myself nicely. I am nurturing myself. I'm giving myself
Yeah.
grace and giving myself time. But I've also come to the realization that this is one of those unfortunate spots that I have zero control over. I can cry as much as I want, beg as much as I want, plead as much as I want, and God's not going to say, gee, I didn't realize this was going to impact Darcie
Oh,
like this. I'm going to put Bill back on earth. Like, that's not going to happen for me.
no, it isn't. And the thing is that, God places certain people like you, like myself, like so many others and like your father, like your husband, in predicaments that are going to glorify the human experience, that are going to
Yes.
glorify, right? It's very, it's not easy. It's sort of like when you're a parent and you say to your child, listen, I want you to be very, very careful climbing that tree. And it's like watching a train wreck in slow motion, and you
Yeah.
understand that this is going to benefit them at some point, in some way. And it always does. Only if you have not just the head knowledge, but the heart knowledge that there is always something beautiful. And there is Black Sabbath. I was like, I'm sorry, I had my phone on Do Not Disturb, but I guess it decides it doesn't work. So right. So, you know, it is a blessing. All of it, all the traumas, all of them are blessings because they add texture. It adds beautiful gold tapestry to our lives. I forgot the term, but I know there's a Japanese, um, and someone online is going to know exactly what I'm talking about. I forgot the word, but Japanese pottery, or it is never perfect.
I
And
do know this because I just
yeah,
interviewed a
mhm,
woman who wrote a book, and I wish I could remember the name of it now because she included that kind of in the title because of the
mhm.
meaning of it.
When it has in the cracks, they purposely put the sealant for pottery. The sealant is actually has gold in it. And so when you look at a mug or a bowl and it has these cracks, the cracks are gold.
Mhm.
And that's beautiful. And
Yeah.
I love the cracks.
Hmm.
They're beautiful. And the cracks have made us, if you are open enough and truly believe that these cracks make you more beautiful. They really do, because it's the life. Life is can be colorful. There are people who don't live very colorful lives. And I think, well, but then there's a blessing in that too. And there's a reason for that. But for those of us who have experienced life in a very colorful way, um, it's our job to take those moments and those experiences and educate others. I mean, really, that's it. There, it serves no value. It serves zero purpose for us as human beings to endure moments that are hiccups or tumultuous moments. Even it serves zero purpose if we don't utilize it. Zero. And give back
Absolutely.
and give back and give back.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it's selfish. You can't
And
bury
that
it.
is
You can't.
exactly true. That's exactly
You
why I
can't.
started sharing so openly because I like how you said that too. I mean, we have really become I can't talk about this. I don't want people to
Mhm,
hear that.
mhm.
And even worse, if I say it, it makes it real. If I'm talking about it, it makes it so real. But that feeling of judgment of what are people gonna say about, how are you for the longest time, because about 3 months in, I was already starting to be like, okay, I feel like I'm healing through this quicker than maybe I should. And then I thought, but who told you that? Who told you that you should be in a
Mhm,
certain space after 3 months?
mhm.
Who said that? Nobody said that.
Right.
That's your
Nope,
way of feeling like, geez, are people going to think you're happy that your job is finally done with your dad? Well, no. And even if people
no,
did say that, those aren't your people. So don't worry about what anybody is
that's right.
thinking. You heal the way that
100%.
you need to heal. And that's
That's
just the
right.
reality of it.
That is. And
Yes.
there's no difference between healing of the heart, healing of the mind, healing of the heart, and healing of the body. We all go through the processes of healing in a very different way. Even childbirth. Everybody goes through the healing in a different way. We go
Mm-hmm.
through the healing of everything in our own unique way. But when it gets taboo, things like what you and I have experienced, things like diagnoses of a child with an ailment. Gosh, I mean, I can go on and on and on. Everybody's going to react. Everybody's going to go through the process in their own timing and in their own way. Even though it does follow a pretty standard clinical progression. But, what do we do with that? At the end of the day, what do we do with our knowledge that we've gained through these moments? That's that's the big question. So now what do I do? Now I have
Mm-hmm.
all this understanding and I have all this knowledge of heart and knowledge in my mind. Now what do I do with it? Well, you know what you have to do with it? You have to go and help others.
Absolutely.
That's what you have. Like that's a mandate. That's called
Mm-hmm.
purpose. You don't know what your purpose in life is? Take the purpose of your life. I don't care who you are, whether you've gone through tragedy or not. If you need to find out who you are, what your purpose is, you need to go to the saddest parts, whether it's loneliness, whether it's maybe in childhood you were people didn't speak kindly to you, maybe you weren't validated for your opinions. Everybody has kinks and wounds. That is where your purpose lies. That is where it lies, and that's where you have to do the ugly deep dig, because that's the gold. That is when you make
Absolutely.
your cracks golden. That's when your cracks become golden.
Mm.
That is when you're able to understand what your purpose is, and that is to take from them and offer the world, offer people your insight, your heart, your empathy, your wisdom. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, share with me where you are now. Where are you with all of this now?
I tell you what, I have developed a tremendous amount of grit. I've developed, and I'm a very feminine female. So, and that could be a whole other topic for another time, but I am a very feminine female. I've never wanted to or felt inclined to just naturally fall into my masculine ever. And I have had to, because I'm a single mother of 3 children. They're all grown, but they're still living with me, and I still provide for them. So yes, I have to live my masculine, but this has put me in a place where I am kind to myself. I'm kind to strangers. I've developed grit, tenacity, courage, and wisdom that I would never, I don't believe, I mean, you only gain those things through hard times. You don't gain grit, wisdom, tenacity unless you are put into a pressure, and diamonds are created under pressure. If you coast through life, where's the grit developing from? Where is it coming from? So right now, and it's still early from that situation, but not from the boys.
Yeah.
But even the boys, my goodness. I mean, leaving my marriage and breaking out on my own, I left everything. I left everything in the house, and he took everything. I had a double blow up mattress from Walmart that we slept on, all 4 of us, for almost a year.
Wow.
Because I couldn't afford to get beds for everybody. I had a blow up and that blow up mattress was so terrible that every morning it would flatten.
Yeah. Oh no.
So, I mean, we slept on a blow up mattress for almost a year. And then you can imagine everything else. So, when all the kids had hot lunches or fun lunches on Fridays once a month, they get Subway or they get, pasta or pizza. I couldn't afford it for my kids. So my kids now I felt guilty. So, all of these things has given me such a heart for helping those who don't have. And it's given me grit and just, I have no fear. Let me just say that, Darcie. At this point in my life, there's nothing, and God knows that. I know that. I think he said, girl, you graduated. You're good.
Yes.
You're good. You're good. There is nothing that would surprise me. There is nothing that would shock me. There is nothing that I cannot endure. Nothing.
That's when somebody has gone through literally the worst thing that they could even have imagined going through, is when you're like, I'm not even afraid of anything anymore because I know that I was able to make it through that. There's nothing that's going to rattle me like that again. There's nothing that's going to cause me to not know the journey that I'm about to go through if something ever does happen again, because you just, it's like you won the game. Like, okay, what else could possibly happen, Lord, that you could throw at me? Because, I can handle it, but please don't throw anything else.
But please don't.
Yes.
Because I think I'm done. I'm good. I just want to chill. I just want to relax. But I also know that, things are always going to be glitchy. Things are going to happen. And I'm going to say, oh, we're doing this now? Oh, this is okay. What's the strategy? What's the strategy? And so that being able to separate emotion and reactivity from a crisis is something that I've really learned to do. I can look at a moment that some people would deem a crisis, but I go, oh, this is a glitch. Okay, this is a problem. This is an obstacle. I need to regulate my central nervous system. I have to separate myself emotionally so I can look at a situation with great less left hemisphere logic, because when we have the emotions, we don't think clearly.
Yeah.
Because our emotions will dysregulate ourselves, and then we're not thinking clearly. So that is something that I've mastered and I teach, and it's imperative. You know that, Darcie, that nobody can go into counseling for, I don't care what. It can be divorce, it could be my child is, going off the rails and he or she is really defiant, or it doesn't matter what somebody comes into my office with. There is no amount of therapy. There's no EMDR. There's no cognitive behavioral therapy. There's nothing that can be effective until the therapist is able to teach the client or the patient how to self-regulate. That is it. If they cannot do that, then they will not be able to take anything that you discuss in a session and implement it. You can't. You need to, the very first thing is to govern your central nervous system. That is number one. Number one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really, really big thing when we're talking about the nervous system and, taking that accountability for your healing. I mean, that's such a big thing for me. I mean, I talked about this in a podcast that actually is dropping on my podcast tonight, but imagine planting like a tulip bulb super deep, like 8 feet down into the ground.
Okay.
How is the water and the sunlight ever really truly going to get to that? Could an outside source happen, like a root come from a tree and start to push it up? Yeah, it could. I mean, possibility is there. But when we're taking our feelings and we are shoving it so far down, how can we ever anticipate healing or something healthy to ever bloom from that? We have to feel these things. We have to allow our emotional system to feel the pain, to feel the fear, to feel all the yucky things that we don't want to feel. We have to, in order to make it through it, to get to the feel good feelings.
And Darcie, I have to say that even though I know what you're saying to be true as a clinician, I know that when I would reread through my notes, reread through literature, I would be so nauseated thinking about that. I would think, I would say, I'm like, are you kidding me? If I could sit in another feeling for 5 freaking seconds, I'm gonna lose my mind. No, thank you. So how can I bypass this? So I was like, can I just bypass the feels? Can I just go to the next step? Because I don't want to feel anymore. I'm so done crying. I'm so done feeling. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I just want to move forward. But the thing is that, and a lot of people feel that way. And that's why they don't progress. Listen, there's an old adage and it says, there is strength and vulnerability. And there really, truly is strength and vulnerability. When we are able to get to a place where we are able to become vulnerable emotionally with what is going on in our bodies and our minds, with our circumstances, it's empowering. Because then you see it, then you wind up in the driver's seat. So the emotions no longer, and this is the goal of this, the emotions no longer run the show. The emotions are no longer in the driver's seat. You are now in the driver's seat, but you know exactly who's in the vehicle, right? That's sadness, that's anger, that's resentment, that's guilt. But you don't know who's in the who are in the passenger seats unless you spend time with them. You have to be able to identify them. So only until you go through that will you be able to have the authority emotionally, spiritually, physically to be able to be in the driver's seat. And that's what regulating your central nervous system really is about. It's about you taking ownership, you taking responsibility, you being in control. You have the authority because they were running the roost, right? Now it's time where you identify them, acknowledge them, and you wind up in the driver's seat.
Yeah. Absolutely. So good, Marlowe. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us today. Thank you for being so open about everything. That goes such a long way here at the School of Hard Knocks. But I am so proud of you, and I'm so proud of the hard work that you're putting into healing properly, but sharing it with other people. It's been so great sitting here with you and listening to your story.
Thanks, Darcie. Thanks for having me, and thanks for being such a great host to help me, feel comfortable, because every podcast is different, and this is really authentic and very liberating. So I thank you so much, Darcie.
Oh, thank you so much. I will be attaching all of the ways that you are able to reach Marlowe. Go follow her, find her, support everything that she's doing. Thank you so much for being here with us today. As always, you guys, healing is always possible when you are walking with the Lord. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye-bye.
I'd like to thank you for sharing your time with me today. And I'm so proud of you for stepping into your healing journey. Please share this with every single person that you know. I'm here to make the biggest impact possible, and I can only do that with you by my side. I hope you hit that follow button and you save me to your library so you never miss an episode. We just took another break out of your wall, and remember, with God, healing is always possible. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.